Hey YouTube, I know it. I know it's pretty quick because I just got finished reading one book, but I'm back again with another catch or read session, where I pick a book out of my collection of books and I read at least one or two chapters, depending on how long the chapter is. Y'all already know the title. I mean, not the title. You already know the introduction. So in this live stream, I am deciding to read another book, and this one is "I Don't Belong to You: Quiet the Noise and Find Your Voice" by Keke Palmer. Now I am doing part two because I believe I've already read this book on YouTube a while back, and I just stopped reading and ended up going to another book. So I decided to come back to this book, and I'm pretty sure we all know who Keke Palmer is. So I don't have to go down everything she done. You should all, I mean, anyone who watch my channel, at least you should know who Keke Palmer is. So I started off with introduction, a letter from Keke. Now we're going to really get into the book. So this is "I Don't Belong to You." This is chapter one. "I Don't Belong to You," on identity and ownership. She has a quote from Diddy in her book. Lord have mercy. You'll have everything you want when you realize you are the one that has to get up and go get it. I don't know why anyone would be quoting Diddy in their books, but to each his own. When I was a kid, I loved storylines that had a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's one reason that that's one reason I was that kid who did not like Saturday morning cartoons. For some reason, I felt they were too vapid. Ha ha ha. No, I didn't literally think the word vapid, but I did hate the fact that Tom and Jerry never learned anything. I didn't get why it was supposed to be funny when it was always the same plot with no twists and no lessons. It wasn't until I discovered live action shows that I really indulged in television. I love Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I think in many ways it influenced who I wanted to be in this world. I love how inclusive his show was. I always felt like Mr. Rogers was talking directly to me, and that made me feel special. I also love the Big Comfy Couch, Sister Sister, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, to name a few other shows that helped shape me. Sabrina was actually a very important show for me as a kid. I said because I believe it was there that I saw the good persona and the bad persona displayed on television. You know, like a good angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. I love this so much because we all have voices telling us who to be and what to do. Some are thoughts of, I mean, in our heads, concepts, limitations, ideas that shape our opinions, and some are literal things we heard from people around us in society. Hello, parents. Hello, friends. Hello, Instagram comments, echoing from our thoughts. But we can't give them control, or we'll end up losing ourselves before we had time to find ourselves. As a kid, it was easier to trust my spirit. I believe that deep down, we know who we are, and I was very aware that the voices in my head weren't me. My gut instincts is set attempted regularly to show attempted regularly to show me the way that to go. Did I always listen? Mostly. But being human, I've fallen into treating the mind as a matter as opposed to a servant. Sound familiar? I quickly figured out how to differentiate myself from the irrational thoughts jumbling around in my brain. It was easy to tell because one voice made me feel chill and easy breezy, and the other voice caused me to feel fear, worry, and anxiety. It's a battle and a choice which voice to listen to. I mean, which voice you listen to. Sorry. On Sabrina, they depicted the simplicity of life, which I love. The message I took away was you are here living and breathing. You have gifts, some of which you know immediately or find out about later, and you have a choice to use them for good or bad. That influenced my approach to life at a young age. I said to myself, this is how I see life. Who do we belong to? I was also very aware that life was a game of choices and experiences. The choice we make determine the experiences we have. And we decide to just draft along and let the voices in our head control us. Or we can remain conscious and be a force in directing where we want our lives to go. I learned that my destiny belonged to me and that the present moment belonged to me. I belonged to me, and I had to have my back, and I had to have enough awareness to make the right choices for me. That's the first step in life before we can make the good, conscious decision about what we're going to eat for dinner, what activities we're going to do, what job suits us best, who we want to date, and what we're going to do. Pretty much any choice we're going to make at all, we have to first determine who we belong to by accepting that we are responsible for ourselves. And we can be guided by whatever it is in our lives that stirs our passion and inspires us to dream. Later, I learned by reading the spiritual actor Eckhart Tolle's book. Sorry if I butchered the name, if I said it wrong. A New Earth, that the personalization of the ego is one of humanity's biggest dysfunctions. Simply put, taking things personally is what creates our identities as human beings. The human brain believes is reality is based off of his story, and sometimes the story can become so traumatic, which all of our stories are to some degree, that you forget your life experience is not just about what has happened to you, it's also about how you've grown and transcended. Our lifetimes are just a blip in our eternal existence, and it is our responsibility while we're here to try not to get too attached to any one facet of the story. No matter how aware I was as a child, or any of us are as children, we are not exempt from this experience because the gag is the experience that is life. We can acknowledge and accept the thoughts we have, but we shouldn't leave it up to them to determine who we are or how we act. We should live in the moment and find peace and not knowing what is next. I love this quote from A New Earth. What a librarian to realize that the voice in my head is not who I am. Sorry, y'all. Follow your heart. Martin Luther King said, if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. Living your passion gives your life purpose. The good news is that the things you are meant to do are already inside you, built into who you are. Sometimes we have to simply move through all the bullshit defense mechanisms that have clouded us from seeing what it is we want to offer to our world in our lifetime and what we are here to express, not just on the surface, but in the soul of our being. There's no right or wrong per se. It's just about getting as close to your truth as possible. There is no blueprint other than the one that is already imprinted in our soul, on our soul, and it ultimately comes down to what have you gone through that when coming out of the other side gave you the perspective that a world needed to see. And I believe the best place to start is following what we are interested in. I made a conscious vow as a child to always follow the voice of my heart wherever it led me. And my heart as a baby girl led me to my first real passion, music. I began singing in the church. My mother was a choir director before my father even thought about being ordained. Every Wednesday there were choir rehearsals, and I always begged my mother to let me sing a solo. I would serve her every time she would tell me no. I felt like she wouldn't even give me a chance. She always tell me that I was too young, and I never could understand what age had to do with singing. Hashtag moms. Side eye. Sorry, y'all. She put some emojis in this book and hashtags and like. Anywho, y'all gotta get the book to see everything. The reality was she probably just thought I was playing, but even though I was a lighthearted child, I took myself and my work very seriously. Ha ha. Hashtag Virgo. My mother was just thinking I was a kid who was not being serious, so she wanted me to sit down. She thought I was just talking. She didn't understand I really had a desire to sing and touch people until I showed her how persistent I was. You see, I idolized my mother singing and I saw how she affected people with her voice. I wanted to do that too. I wanted a chance at that. I remember the first time I got her to agree to let me sing a solo, and my solo choice was Jesus Loves Me. Not too long after that, I was the lead soloist singing in my kindergarten play. My mom was so scared because we rehearsed all week for my solo, and when I walked to the front of the stage to start, they hadn't lowered the mic from the class before. My mom thought I was doomed, but I wasn't afraid because I had watched her pull a mic out of its stand my whole life. Ha ha. I whipped out that mic and went to town, y'all. It was truly a special feeling to be able to touch people with my voice, and even more amazing to know that it was a specific. Hold on. And even more amazing to know that it was specific to me. I claim my music abilities as a part of my identity. When my parents first approached me about acting, the connection was music. There was a newspaper article about casting for the Lion King production at the Cadillac Palace Theater in January 2002. The article said they were looking for little black girls of all ages fit in this height and this weight to play Nala. They needed a singer, and my parents thought of me. I went and didn't make it. That's how the story goes. But it didn't take long for me to realize that I liked what I saw in that audition room. I saw that acting was another way to to move people. Though playing out different scenarios and showcasing emotions as an actress, I could affect other people's perspectives and feelings just as I saw my mother do with her singing. Movies, plays, and television shows offer people a different perspective from the reality they live in, and sometimes they even offer hope. In my first acting roles, I came to understand that, and I thought, cool. Though I was always interested in acting, my family and I originally felt singing was my strong suit. Just a few months after my Lion King audition, my mother found out about auditions for a show called American Juniors. It was a new show on Fox that was a children's version of American Idol. Make a long story short, or your girl got her golden ticket. I was just 9 years old. My family and I stayed in California for a duration of the competition, and it was a whole new world out there. They put me in dance class and singing classes, and my mom said watching me handle that process convinced her to really take this seriously because I sure was. My mom was always being afraid to ask questions. I believe that's also a great lesson that she taught me. Closed mouths don't get fed. She tried to raise me to listen more than I spoke, to listen and never be afraid to ask questions, to always remain humble and willing to learn, which is just what she did. She got every phone number she could at that competition. She learned anything she could that would help with my future in the industry. And she knew that no matter what happened with this competition, she would come up with ideas and the plan of where we were going next. I mean, hashtag my mom is so epic. I was wondering what that said. Anyhow, we got back from the trip to California, and I ultimately did and get the call to be on the full season of the show. I was sad, but mostly itching to do more. I knew there had to be more opportunities. I just wasn't sure if my mom knew how to help me. Hashtag respectfully persistent. Lo and behold, my mom used any and every resource she had from her college and theater days, her music days, and her time in California during American Dreams to make my dreams happen. She even found an agent in Chicago. An agent told us there were auditions being held for Barbershop too, and they needed a little girl to play Queen Latifah's niece. We all know she got that role. I had to audition, except they wouldn't let me. The word was Queen Latifah, fresh from an Oscar nomination, was only going to be in town for a short while. They didn't want to waste her time with unseasoned actors, and I had been on only one audition in my short acting career, in quotation marks. But still, my mom and I weren't about to take no for an answer. I wasn't much of an actor yet, but I was a singer. That was what we felt the key was to get them to hear me sing. I learned a huge lesson from my mother that day. She showed me how to be respectfully persistent. I mean, we did run up to the casting director and stalk her outside her house. Haha. But we put together a tape of me doing the lines and then me singing Be a Lion from the Wiz. We felt in our hearts that if they saw me, they would feel me. Yes, they had told us no, but the point is that we knew something they didn't know. Not seeing me was a mistake, haha. So we had to find a way around that mistake. You don't have to bulldoze, you just had to respectfully disagree when you experience what I call an unfair no. Because even if they don't like it or it isn't what they're looking for, people respect well thought out effort. And anytime you reaching for a goal, I found it helps to create a pattern for yourself of always giving it your all, everything you've got. That is a great habit to start with. I ain't expect the chapter to be that damn long. Hold on, y'all. My mom and I sent in the tape and heard nothing for months. We didn't expect to hear back because, again, we done something kind of unorthodox. We weren't even sure when they received the tape or if they actually watched it. These were the many thoughts running through our minds, but we sent it off anyway because we felt in our hearts that it was worth the shot. It's got to always be about what you believe. We start to lose hope until the casting director called my mom saying that they still been unable to find the girl. They asked to see me and they told me that the producers and Ice Cube were going to be in the room. My mom said they were testing me and probably wanted to see if I would get nervous. We wanted to do something extra to show them that even though I never been on a set or met any celebrities, I was fearless. Fearlessness goes a long way, and it doesn't mean you feel no fear. It just means you don't let it drive your decisions or deteriorate you. I was fearless and capable to do of doing the job, and I wanted to show them that. My mother and I quickly hatched a plan. I do my lines and then beg them to let me sing. Ha ha ha. I know it sounds so silly, but I enjoyed this, and singing was my main talent at that time. So I felt more confident knowing I could lean on that in the audition room. Little did I know that this same plan would be my introduction for most of my early career. By the time we moved to California, every room I entered, I would bet at the agent, producer, or casting director to let me sing. And when my mother was in the room with me, we would really play it up. Me, I love dancing and acting and singing. I really started out singing with my mom in church. Oh, mommy, please, can I sing for them? Mom, oh no, Kiki, that's not what these people are here for. Me, mommy, please. By that point, they had to let me sing. I know this might sound elaborate, but some people might think my mom and I were pulling a little heartbreakers kind. The 2001 movie with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sigourney Weaver. But the truth is that this is how we got my story across in less than 10 minutes. How we bond and how we showed them that I was more than what they saw on the surface. We had to show where we came from and where we were going with little to no time. We wanted them to know that it was about the feeling, and we couldn't do that without a performance to find the quickest way to get there. It was about creating a atmosphere to show the feeling I was able to express through my gift. This became our thing. Shine your light and be fearless in your creative pursuits. Hold on, y'all. Let me check something real quick because oop, damn, that's sorry. My mother and I learned so much. My mother and I leaned so much on my singing in the beginning because it was the quickest way to show people my heart and what I was about. Even down to song choice, "Be a Lion," it was all about courage, having the courage to shine your light, which I had to have. It was the best song to express that Keke is about hope. She is young, but has found what she is passionate about and can't help but share it with the world. We were asking them in essence to be a part of my movement. That's more or less what my mom was trying to display with her game. It's special to me to retrospect because God was. It says first simple rule in life: if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. And that's from uh, hplyrics.com. I don't know. All right. Right beside her, he was guiding her and guiding me on my yellow brick road. My timing was good because the opportunities were booming for child actors. There were so many child driven projects back then. Maybe it's the same now, but I'm not sure because I'm no longer a child and don't hear about these parts anymore. LOL. But in any event, when I first moved to California, there were opportunities out the. I guess she's supposed to say ass because I'm guessing that's a horse emoji, and you call a donkey an ass. Anyhow, I was first in line to audition for every last one. In 2004, I appeared in two very different but equally good movies: Barbershop 2, Back in Business with Queen Latifah, in the Wool Cat with William H Macy. I was 9 and 10 years old. Over the next 10 years, I was in 21 films and 16 television shoots, including the television show True Jackson VP. In my own talk show, my mom gave me some perspective. She reminded me to be grateful for the blessing and overflow, but to also understand that life has ups and downs. And even if the work wasn't always overflowing, I should always have fun because the work was about creativity and not society's ideas of success. By the age of 10, I had received a SAG Award nomination in the leading actress category for the Wool Cap. Sorry, I am still the youngest person to be nominated in the female leading category, and it brought me a lot of attention in the acting community. The award is so special among actors because it means your peers thought you deserved the nomination. At the time, I didn't know what that meant, and I think that's good. But it was a recurring theme in my life. My mom understood, and I didn't even realize I was achieving all that because my identity was more wrapped up in music. I was able to be more fearless in my acting because I was less self conscious about it, but the music, not so much. However, a very rare opportunity was given to me at the age of 12. I had just finished a Cleveland to be, and there was buzz in the industry around my performance. Record producers heard that I recorded a song for the soundtrack, and all of a sudden they wanted to sign me. What? Me, an official actress, and now a record deal? It's on. I was ecstatic, but something went wrong on my way to that dream, and things quickly fell apart. My joy I felt singing was overshadowed by people who didn't always share the same love for my music that I did. And suddenly, singing became just a job. The gag is most record labels don't have artist development. That part of the community lost its way when labels' main agenda became to sell singles. And when rappers like Master P and Birdman started creating their own independent labels, it made many of the record labels stop investing in real artist development because they depended on smaller production companies to do it and make money off the major singles from the artists. And that means if you don't come to major labels with your own infrastructure in place, it is hard for them to know how to deliver you to the world. They are thinking more about selling singles because that brings in the money faster. They aren't thinking about a long-term career for the music for the artist because that honestly does take a lot of time and effort and is not always a huge payoff for them, even though it is for the artist. Single records don't help build the careers of great artists the way albums do. That's why Motown was one of the best record labels in the world. If the art didn't hit the first time, they still believe in them and they didn't stop spending money on development and creating albums where the fans were allowed to grow with them. Today, labels are more like distributors. They don't want to spend money making artists. They want to get money off artists who are already made or already made a hit. In other words, they don't want to help the artist create the brand. They just want to attach themselves to the brand once it's already created. That's why it is important to know who you are and follow your dreams independent or I mean uh, of if you know whether people are going to help you or not. Because if you expect them to do it for you, you will be disappointed every time, just like I was. Damn, this is a pretty long chapter. I got my first record deal as a very young artist at the age of 12. And I didn't understand all of that. I thought once you had a deal, you had it made. I didn't know how important it was to have a plan for your career going in. I didn't have my own plan. I got lost in the process, and that's what I felt like. Sorry. My problem in the early days was that I didn't know who I was as an artist yet. The record company knew I had a great voice and a growing brand as a performer, but they didn't take the time to consider where I came from, who I was, and who I wanted to be. The record labels were just thinking I could sell some records because I was well known for being on Disney and the King and the Bee. They knew that my fan base was diverse and included all kinds of people. They were focused on the money and not spending the joy of the feeling that brought me to music in the first place. They didn't care that I grew up singing in the church or about the community that I was from. Basically, all the experiences that shaped me and made me me. Rather than understand me, they seemed frustrated that they couldn't tap into what made me special. They couldn't figure out how to make money off that gift, and ultimately, it was probably because God didn't want them to. In a lot of ways, I think God was protecting me in order to protect the message that I now know I am supposed to send. It hurt me, but they couldn't block the message. If you look at the successful careers of performers like Alicia Keys, Jennifer Lopez, Aaliyah, Brandy, and even Taylor Swift, you will see that. I mean, when they started out, you knew their histories, their backgrounds, and their stories, which in turn help you relate to the usually unrelatable lifestyles of artists lead. Alicia Keys was a soul singer and classically trained pianist. She was the diamond in the rough, so well displayed in the If I Ain't Got You video. And even though we saw Jennifer Lopez living large with Diddy and then on her own, her videos always display her as a cool down bitch from the Bronx with song phrases such as "Cause I'm real." And even if you couldn't relate to the sugary, sweet country girl playing the guitar, unlike Taylor Swift, you could relate to her love struck tendencies and her dragging of her exes because honestly, everyone likes to speak their truth. After my first record deal ended, I would watch tons of music videos from my fave artists and listen to their songs and research, wondering where I went wrong. What did they do that I have not? The record company never gave me time to establish my career and tell my story about growing up in the south suburbs of Chicago and moving to a big city of LA. I was so heartbroken by my experience with the industry that I wanted to understand how it went wrong. I would watch videos all day and night and try to see the difference between some that propelled forward and others that didn't. Their videos gave me inspiration, and it was the first time I realized the integral part that the storyline plays for artists, whether it can be ambiguous like Prince or straight down the middle like Taylor Swift. I realized there was always a story. The greats always told you their stories. The ones with legacies gave you a story worth remembering. We were impressed by Michael Jackson's Thriller because it was a universal record. It had mainstream appeal like a kick-ass video. We were also overtaken by Michael's image, the glittery gloves and glittery socks. But would it have hit us hard if it wasn't the Michael Jackson we all knew? Would something be abstract? Would something so abstract have been understood if we didn't know Michael's story? That's the whole gag. Even though we couldn't always relate to Michael's lifestyle, we could always relate to his story. He came from Indiana, big family, close to his mother and sister, problems with his father. We maybe didn't always get his quirkiness, but that's what we would expect, seeing as how he grew up so different in front of our eyes. From the very beginning, he had a different life, making hits since the age of 10 for Motown Records. It makes sense. He made sense. A song about going to see a horror movie made sense for him. And Prince, when we had been able to accept Prince ambiguity, if he hadn't so artistically expressed ridicule being in a part of his life since he could remember. Hashtag Purple Rain. As some people ridicule him about his race, his sexuality, his sense of fashion, other people also share that storyline or just related to his resilience and start to root for him for those same reasons as they realize that his embracing ridicule for being different was a part of his artistic message. I just can't believe all the things people say. Controversy. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Controversy. Hashtag that's the ultimate gag. We were invested in these great arts because we got to watch them grow. My previous label always tried to take shortcuts with me because I was already a celebrity when I signed. Unlike traditional new arts mentioned above, the label didn't think they had to allow my audience to grow with me as a musician by giving them the time to get to know me as an artist. They thought they could ride the wave of my popularity from acting and make a quick buck. But the gag was I'm not my characters. People aren't stupid. And they didn't want the glaze over Keke Palmer. They wanted to really get to know her if they were going to listen to her music. When my first album was released, the label threw a single out and then it didn't become wildly successful, even though they didn't promote it effectively or even know me well enough to know how to promote it. They blamed it on me. The single they chose, Keep It Moving, didn't even represent me or my story well. A better choice would have been Hood Anthem. They were just thinking about the money and not my fans, not the kids or the people who I wanted to positively affect with my story. That time was scary for me because I wanted to shine my light, but if it wasn't big and it wasn't grand, I felt like it wasn't good enough. They tried to get me to sing music I didn't give a fuck about. It was bullshit. But as I said on my website, I did I did not spread at my wings because I was told I couldn't fly a certain way. And I believed it. I stopped trying altogether because I allowed people to make me believe that being an artist meant having a big budget music videos and big record producers backing you. When in reality, all being an artist means is to be fearless in your creative pursuits. My anxiety caused by the habit of unconsciously holding my breath, coupled with the stress of my personal life at that time, created a lot of hard years of depression for me. However, I am exalted now because God brings it to you when you are ready, not when you think you are. I am now right where I should be, and I can see that my heart, I can see with my heart that I have always known who I am and who I wanted to be. I was young then and I didn't understand it all. Now I'm a grown woman. I can say to record executives that they may want a big single, but I want to tell my fans who I am first. I couldn't articulate that as a kid. No one would listen to me, and I let it steal my joy. Moving to the next level, I start to shut down as a result of feeling chained by something that once set me free. What could I do other than to abandon music as a whole? That's what I thought at the time. Talk about a heartbreak. No guy could ever break my heart like the music industry did. Oh Jesus, hold y'all, because this is a lot to read. I didn't think the chapter would be that damn long. This is a typical story when you are pursuing your dreams. When you start taking action, a lot of people are suddenly trying to wait in, and it becomes easy to doubt yourself. You are also walking through the valley of the shadow of death, which to me, in many ways, is a metaphor for or the doubts and disappointments playing out in your mind. When you decide to be all that you know you are meant to be, you had to face a lot of things holding you back mentally, physically, and spiritually. They all affect one another. In certain situations, no matter how difficult they may seem in the moment, you must experience in order to get to the next chapter of your life. It's like a video game. And the sooner you accept the tough situations as something that's going to move you forward, the more it drives you in your desire to advance to the next level. I forgot that I belonged to me at the time. Um, and just like that finger snap, the negative voices that I was so quick to ignore as a child began pushing me the wrong way. These were the voices of despair that I had unconsciously vowed to never follow. They became very loud, very real. They told me that the problems in my music career were all my fault and that I had failed. My rational, intellectual voice was quickly being drowned out by the irrational voice of my ego that had personalized the experience. The ego voice would tell me the label people are smart and can't be wrong about arts. I mean, could they? I don't know. Oh no, I don't know. That's the thing about the mind and why it should always be assurance to the heart. The mind has limitations, and these limitations are because the mind is like a computer. A computer only knows what it has been put. Hold on. A computer only knows what has been put inside it. Our minds cannot fundamentally understand the point of following a passion. It cannot comprehend passion, and it can only know the information it knows already. The intellectual mind, when nurtured, can filter out what is in your control and what is not. And when it's time to let the heart decide, when you allow your ego to take over, it often doesn't feel at ease unless it's in control, which means it is uneasy often because you can't control the circumstances of life. So when you let go of your ego drive, it is a fast way to a world of anxiety. But our hearts tell us that what we know is relative and that there are things we can do that have never been done before. Oh, Jesus. I didn't have enough experience to know the difference. The even scarier part was these dark thoughts. I mean, the even scarier part was these dark thoughts were a much more aggressive version of the not so positive thoughts I had as a child. This was a mixture of my own for all his fears and the voices of real people, business people filling me with fears I never knew existed. They were putting limitations on me that I never knew were there. The louder their voices got, the cloudier my sense of self became. I believed my fears because to me, it had to be true now that others were also saying it right. I started making associations that weren't true. I tried to equate them like plus B equals C. I determined that I was I determined that I wasn't able to be a artist and that it had to be true because my first album, So Uncool, wasn't successful. I was only 14 years old, but that is when I began to belong to them instead of to me. As far as I knew, the labels never made mistakes. And I told myself that if I was worth anything, then they'd know it. So I stepped away from music thinking that I wasn't a musician, and even more so, that I wasn't worthy of being me. I felt this way for many years, and so I focused solely on my other passions and talents. I didn't understand that those voices of doubt, whether in my head or from the mouths of real people, will always be in some ways my constant companion because that's simply how life works. The more you grow and the more you face with, the more your mind has to analyze and digest. Mental constructs are part of our humanity, and yes, haters gonna hate. But I didn't know at the time that I could fight them. I had to fight them, and I had to win. This concept doesn't just apply to music industry. Some people think that being a celebrity is the only extraordinary thing to be, and that popularity is what it means to be successful. How many times a day do you judge a life event by how many likes it gets on social media? I even done it myself. But this is not fair to us. Our worth cannot be based on what others believe, but what we choose to believe. What I'm talking about applies to whether you are trying to whatever you're trying to do in life, whether you are an aspiring entertainer, writer, model, trainer, doctor, nurse, hairdresser, or bookkeeper. What is in your heart, whether it's pursuing a career you love or trying something new every week until you find what it is you love. It's on the right track as long as it's true of heart because it says is what it's relative to you. Leave the doubters and find encouragers instead. As soon as you know what you want to do and your gut is screaming out, it might have people step in with a list of logical reasons why you shouldn't do that thing you know you need to do. This sucker still ain't done yet. But you have to take a real good look at the people who are setting roadblocks in your life. Hashtag who, I mean, you said what now? When you look at where people are in their lives, their point of view becomes clear. You have to weed out the people you love from the people you admire. Doesn't that make sense? The two things are different. For instance, if you love your brother, but your brother has never been disciplined about anything, he's probably not the best person to talk to when you need motivation to follow through with the things you are doing. If you love your mom, but your mom has always was always too scared to try anything new, it makes no sense to expect her to encourage you when stepping outside of your comfort zone. Hashtag consider the source. They may share their fears or doubts, and that's fine, but you can't wait for them to come around and allow their excuses to become your own. They may have concerned wisdom, but they may be limited in their perspectives, and they are also not inside your head or your heart. So they may not know what you know about what you are capable of. We are the heroes of our stories, and when you choose to be, that's what the work of belonging to ourselves is about. Taking reasonability for your own life requires a lot of work, and you will need support. We've got to surround ourselves with if like-minded people who are on a road of self-discovery, just like us, so that we can encourage each other. Making room for those who are all about what you're about also shows God in the universe that you are serious about changing the world around you by taking the steps yourself to change your path and actually walking the walk and talking the talk. You open the door for God to assist you. You show Him that you are ready to step up each and every step of the way. All right, I'm about to end it there. I'll come back a little later because this is a lot to read. So y'all stay tuned. Because I already read one book and now I'm over here trying to jump into another.